Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's webinar from Anicca Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley, and I'm on with Gurpreet Bassi, who's the head of paid media. Gurpreet will introduce herself in a minute. We're just going to do a couple of polls before we start the talk. Gurpreet is going to be talking to a guide to conversion tracking and attribution in Google Ads. You'll also notice, everybody, that there's a handout which you can go and get the presentation, and also we will be sending out the video later on this afternoon. It does take a little while. So while we're waiting for a few more people to join us, I'll start the first poll. And the first poll is just to try and understand whether you're actually using Google Ads or not at the moment. So hopefully you can see the poll. Can you see it? Can you see it, Gurpreet?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Excellent. So what I'll do is I'll read out the question and the answers, because otherwise it doesn't show on the video. So are you or your company using Google Ads? No, I'm just learning, or I'm trying to secure a budget. No, it's someone else's responsibility, but I want to understand what this involves. Yes, I'm currently running ads myself, or I'm part of an in-house team running ads. Yes, we're currently running ads through an internal, sorry, that was meant to say an external freelancer or an agency. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we're starting to get a few responses now. The pretty much 40% are saying they're running ads either themselves or with a team, and about a third of people are just learning or waiting to secure a budget. So there's a few people using an external person as well, but of course you can pretty much, you could use an external help and also be responsible. So it's pretty much a split. So the majority are doing it, and then the about a third are not ready yet. So Gurpreet is going to introduce it really from basic first principles. So if you've never done anything on conversion tracking before, haven't a clue what it means, she will go and explain everything. Okay, so my next questions is to the people that have using it rather than everybody. So I'm going to start the second poll. I guess if you have used it before, or nearly ready to use it, you could answer this. But if you're using Google Ads, are you tracking conversions and or understand conversion attribution? Now you can tick more than one. I just combined the two questions because it was easier. I don't know if we're tracking conversions or not. You'll be amazed how many ad accounts we audit where there's no conversion tracking. So that wouldn't be a surprise at all. We're not tracking at the moment, so they're definitely not. Yes, we are tracking sales and revenue for our e-commerce website. Yes, we are tracking leads and calls for our lead generation site. And then I go on to ask about what conversion attribution is. We do not understand conversion attribution, which is, I guess, why you're here. And then I've got one other person, two people say, I do understand conversion attribution and how to use it in our account. So hopefully you'll still learn a little bit if the guys that come into that category. But it is quite common. People don't have conversion tracking at all, or they are completely unfamiliar with it, or they don't understand about conversion attribution. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit of information about the level of the audience. And it's also allowed us to get quite a few more people, got nearly 40 people now actually on the webinar. So I am going to turn my camera off, hand over to you, and I will try to answer some questions if they come up. But if not, we'll do some questions and answers at the end. So over to you, Gurpreet. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Anne. So good morning, everybody. So today, as Anne's already mentioned, we're going to cover conversion tracking and attribution in Google Ads. We are taking it from a very, very basic level. So it will be, what is conversion tracking? How do you use it? And the same with attribution and so on. If there are any more advanced questions or anything that you were wondering about that we haven't covered, because I did see from the poll there are some of you who are probably quite self-sufficient with it, pop it in the chat, and like Anne said, we'll answer it as we go, or we'll answer it at the end, or if we don't actually know the answer, we'll go away and get an answer for you. So firstly, a bit about myself. So as Anne mentioned, I'm the head of paid media here at Anicca. My background is Google Ads. So Google Ads, Bing, display, that side of things, that is my speciality. I have 3 little girls. They're actually older than this now, but it's I think about a 2-year-old picture. But yes, I have 3 young girls. They are a handful. And also Netflix. I love Netflix, and I say this in all my webinars. If anybody's got any recommendations, feel free to leave them in as well. And then just a bit about Anicca, who we are, what we do. We work with a number of different clients, so lead generation, e-commerce. So when it comes to the tracking side of things, we have really done it across a number of different accounts and areas. And you can see some of the clients that we work with along the bottom. So today, what we will cover. So I have mentioned conversion tracking and what can be tracked within Google Ads. It may be that you are tracking conversions, but actually there's more you could be tracking. So we're going to have a look at that. Conversion action sets. So this is something that a lot of people don't use and could actually be really beneficial for you. And it's a way of grouping your conversions together. So they're helpful in ways that you need. And then we're going to touch on attribution. So what is attribution? I'm guessing you will probably hear the term a lot. So what it actually is, and the options that you have available to you in Google Ads and what they mean. Okay, so about conversion tracking. So conversion tracking is free. It's a free tool within Google Ads that lets you see what happens when a customer interacts with your ad on Google. So when a customer completes an action that you've defined as valuable, and that's the important thing, a conversion is what you count as a conversion on your website. These customer actions are called conversions. So why would you use conversion tracking? And I think Anne mentioned it earlier as well. There's a number of accounts that we've seen that actually don't use conversion tracking. And it's a bit of a shocker to us because it's a really important thing that you want to be using. So why do you want to use conversion tracking? So you want to identify what keywords, campaigns, ads, and audiences and products are driving the most conversions. So if you've gone through the whole process of setting an account up, picking your keywords, your ad copy, your products, that's the start of the journey. What you then want to see is, okay, how are these keywords and products performing? Are they making me money? Are they working? And the only way that you'll really understand profitability and the ROI of an account is if you are tracking it. So you want to be tracking those metrics that are important to you. It's also brilliant to have conversion tracking because it means you can test and improve your landing pages and generally anything within the account. If you know that a keyword went to a certain landing page and it converted and it didn't, it then means you can make changes and you can test to see if those conversions go up or down. And also, so you can use Google's smart bidding strategy. So that's Google's automation. If you don't have tracking in place, conversion tracking in place, then there are some strategies that you can't use. And I do touch on that later so you can see what options are available to you in terms of bidding strategies if you do have your conversion set up. Most ad platforms offer their own version of conversion tracking. So we're focusing on Google Ads today, but other platforms such as Facebook, Bing is very much a carbon copy of what we're going to go through today. They, pretty much all of them do have their own form of conversion tracking. So if you're familiar with Google Ads, that's brilliant. And then just make sure that you're applying it across the other platforms as well. So what can actually be tracked? So it's easy for me to sit here and say, make sure you've got conversion tracking and you're tracking everything that you need on your site. But let's just touch on what can actually be tracked, because it's not just sales and figures like that. So you can track several different website actions. So these are actions that happen on your website that you can track. So these include things like purchases. So if you are an e-commerce site, somebody can come onto your site and actually purchase and buy something. You can record that. You can record things such as form fills. So that could be if possibly you're a lead generation site and your aim is to get people onto your site, collect their details so you can then follow up. So that would be a form fill. You may be a site that has a lot of collateral that you want to provide to your users. So you're actually really interested in things such as downloads. So are users coming to your site and are they downloading something? And also newsletter signups, because that can be one of the big drivers and objectives of some campaigns. They want to start obtaining information so people sign up to newsletters and things like that. So when an action happens on your website, and if it is of relevance to you, that can be counted as a conversion. So we call them website actions. You can then also track phone calls, which are really interesting as well. So you can track call from ads. You can track calls to a phone number on your website. So if you have a number displayed on your website and you want to track that number being called, you can do that. And you can also track clicks on a phone number on a mobile device. So I use this quite a lot. So when you do a search on your phone and then a website comes up and their contact details come up, including their call number, and you can actually click on that number and dial through to them, that can be classed as a conversion as well. You can go a step further and you can say, okay, I don't want to count every single phone call as a conversion. However, if the call lasted more than 30 seconds or more than a minute, or whatever you know is a qualified call, if they last longer than that amount, then you can set it in that sense and say, okay, only class it as a conversion if it lasted more than a minute or more than 30 seconds, whatever it is you believe where you know you would have been able to qualify that lead. So you can do some really clever things with call tracking. And you can also track app installs. So if you have that side of things, you can track app installs, and then once users within an app, you can track purchases that happened, and also different actions that they may carry out when they are within the app. You're actually able to track all of that as well. And one of the really interesting ones that you can do is import offline conversions. So think of this in the sense where it's an activity that starts online, but it's actually finished offline. So such as seeing a product offering online and then going in store or in an office to complete the action. That data can actually then be re-uploaded into Google Ads via the information collected from your sales database, and information can be married up. So you can really see the complete whole picture of what is going on with the account and keywords and ad copies that initiated the conversions to happen. Okay, so getting a bit technical now. So actually setting up conversion tracking. So how does it work? So a code snippet, essentially, a code snippet is required to start tracking conversions. So this is a universal tag that can be installed direct onto the website. So you can do it directly through the HTML, or you can do it via something called Tag Manager. Now, typically we use and we prefer Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager, sorry, as it reduces the number of codes direct on the site, which can affect load times. It's also a very good way of organizing your ads, your conversion tracking. Is a really good way to do it that way, and you can use it in such an efficient way that you could have tags from multiple platforms coming in. So it doesn't just have to be used for Google, it can be for Bing and Facebook and other platforms as well. It forms part of the same snippet of code used for Google Analytics and is known as a G tag. Now, once you have installed your tracking, there is a plugin called Tag Assistant. Definitely recommend that you download that if you don't have it already. It is for a Chrome browser, and it helps you verify that your code is installed and tracking correctly. And it's a great way to troubleshoot. So if you feel like you've got your tag implemented and it should be firing, but it's not, download the Tag Assistant, and then it can help you troubleshoot if anything is going wrong. If you're using Tag Manager, you can also check this within the preview mode within Tag Manager. So before anything is actually pushed live onto the website or anything like that, there's a preview area where you can check if the code and the tag is working properly. Now we're gonna, I've got a few step-by-steps for you later on, but just so you know, when configuring the code, you can select the category of the conversion that you want. So you can say whether it's a purchase, you can say whether it's a lead, a page view, a sign up, or other, something else. So even though it may be a website action, as we called it earlier, you can actually then drill down a bit further, and within your tracking you can say, well, okay, what is this website conversion? It's a purchase, no, it's a lead, no, it's a page view. So you can start drilling down a bit further. And when configuring your code, you will need to have a think about and decide on certain settings, such as if you are tracking a purchase, do you want to track the value of that purchase? Big fat yes from me. You always, where possible, want to track what revenue is being generated. So you will want to say whether you want the value tracked or not. However, if it's a lead, for instance, you may say, you know, I don't actually want a value assigned to that. It's not really important at the moment for a page view or a sign up or anything like that. So that's fine. You might set it as 0 value for those. Count. So how many times you want to count a conversion, and I'll go into that a bit later on. A conversion window. So from when a click took place to when a conversion actually happens, what window do you want to look at within that? So it's typically 30 days, but you can have it much higher as well if you feel that your conversion window should be a lot higher, which some sectors are. That's fine, you can change that. And whether or not you've created a conversion, and do you actually want to include it in your conversion column in Google Ads? Now, typically you would say if you're setting up this conversion, then the answer would be yes, it's important to you, so you want it to show. However, there's a lot that you can track. So you may decide, okay, I want to see the conversion tracking and how many are being tracked as a whole, but actually when it comes to my cost per conversion or anything like that, I don't actually want to see it in my figures. So I will set it as a no. So there is the option as to whether you want to count them within your conversion column or not. And it's actually at this point as well, when you're creating the conversion code, where you choose which attribution model you want. So there's a section on that later where we'll touch on and explain what the different models are. One thing to know, you can pick one when you create the conversion tag, but you can change it later on. So don't worry if you've already got it set up and you think I've chosen this attribution model, you don't have to stick with it. You can change it later on. And then you've also got the option for a view through conversion window. So this is more applicable to a display network, where a user may have viewed or seen the advert, but actually come back and converted via a different means. So whether it be directly or via another keyword, then you can actually count those as view through conversions, so you know that they helped to generate a later conversion. Okay, so how to actually set up conversion tracking within the account. So when you log into Google, it seems like most of you did have a Google Ads account, you'll know that there's a navigation bar along the top, and then towards the right hand side, I believe it is, there's this option for tools and settings. So if you click on tools and settings, a drop down menu will come for measurement and other things, but you want to focus on measurement for this, and then you would select conversions. Okay, once you've selected conversions, it will be the first point where you say you want to start tracking conversions, and you say, okay, what it is that you want to track. So is it a website conversion, as we spoke about earlier? Is it to track actions on your app? Is it to do with phone calls, tracking certain phone calls? Or would you like to import data? So this would be perhaps the data from your database. This is also the option that you would select if you want to import from Google Analytics. So if you have goals or events, should I say, set up within Google Analytics that are functioning and they're fine, and you want to actually pull that into Google Ads, you can do that as well. So you can import your Google Ads conversion tracking as well. Okay, so here, step one would be select your tracking type, which we saw on the previous screen. And then based on which one of those you select, you'll then be shown step by step, pretty much, of what Google needs from you and what settings it would like you to say you would like. So first thing you want to do is, well, second in this, select conversion category. So is it a purchase? Is it a lead, a page view, a sign up, or something else? You then want to name your conversion, and you want to use something clear and logical. The way I like to think of it is if a colleague was to jump into this account and they needed to see the conversions that have been set up, it needs to be obvious. They shouldn't have to dig around and try and find out, you know, what it is. If you name it clear and logical, then it should make sense to everybody. And especially if you're going to be creating a number of different conversions, you would want to say specifically what it is. So if you have a sign up section on your account, but you can actually sign up to 3 different areas or 3 different things, and you want to create separate tracking codes for them, name them accordingly to those 3 different areas. Assign a value. So it's at this section where you assign a value. So you say whether you want it to be 0, 1, or actually if you need something a bit more technical whereby you want it to be the value to be the revenue, then you can select that option here. If you do select that you would like the value to be the revenue that you are generating, that's absolutely fine. It's just a minor bit of change within the coding that needs to be had so that data can be pulled in. But at this point, if you state which one it is you are after, then the codes that you'll be given at the end will change accordingly. You also want to select your count. So I mentioned this earlier. So do you want to count every conversion that happens? Or do you just want to count it once? Now, the way that I would maybe say this is, for instance, in the sign up example that I said, if you have one sign up conversion tracking created for 3 different sign up areas that you may have within the account, you may say that, okay, if they sign up for 3 different ones, I want to count all 3 of them. Or you may say, well, actually, as long as they sign up, it's all the same to me, so I only need to count one of those. So it's at this area where you can say, okay, how many do you actually want to count? The other one could be, an example could be if somebody is purchasing something. So they purchase one thing and then they think, oh, actually, I wasn't done yet. Let me go ahead and purchase something else. Therefore, do you want that to count once because it's the same user, or are you actually happy to count it twice? So it's those sort of things that you need to think about, how you actually want a conversion to be counted. You then have the conversion window. So when you're first creating your code, it defaults to 30 days, but this can be adjusted based on your business and your lead times that you know. So that can go up to, you know, really high figures like a year or even more, I believe. So if you know that you may have a very long lead time, then that's absolutely fine. You can adjust that and make it longer. You can also here set how long you want your view through conversion window to be. Now this defaults to 1 day. We usually don't recommend any more than a week, 7 days. And just a reminder, that's from when a user may see an ad, but then go on and convert via a different mechanism. You can still actually have a conversion attributed to that campaign or ad, whatever it may be, and it's known as a view through conversion. You then have the option here to say, do you want to include the conversion that you're creating within your conversion column? So it's a simple yes or no. And again, once you've created this, you can change it later on. And as you can see here, attribution model. So this is where you can say which attribution model would you like to use? Last click, first click, linear, time decay, position-based, or data-driven. And we will go on to those in a minute. And then once you've selected all those settings, you would then hit create and continue. And you will see something along the following lines. Just a caveat on this, Google Ads is constantly changing its interface. So it may have actually changed from this screenshot since it was last taken, but it will be something along the same lines. So it will let you know that you've created your tag, and it will then ask you, okay, how do you actually want to implement the tag? How do you want to set it up? So the main options that you'll be given are to go ahead and install the tag yourself. Or you'll be able to email the details. So if you have a web developer or someone else within the business who takes care of this side of things, at this point you can actually email the tag to them, and it will email the tag and all the instructions on implementation and things like that. Or you can go down the option to use Google Tag Manager. And as you click on each of these options, the instructions will be displayed for each choice. So for instance, if you go for Google Tag Manager, you'll be given the information that you need. So direct on a website. So you will select the HTML code, and you'll indicate what you already have in place. So if you already have a G tag in place, you would select yes. Obviously, if you don't have it, you'll select no. And what will happen is the code will be changed dependent on the answers that you are given, so that you are then left with the code that you need to be implemented to track the conversions on your website. And should it be Tag Manager that you go for, you will need the conversion ID and the conversion label, which will be given to you when you select that option, which you will then go to Tag Manager and implement. And there's a few things that you need to ensure. So you need to create a tag and a trigger for the conversion in Google Tag Manager. And you will need a linker tag. Now, I know this sounds very technical, and I'm very aware that I'm just throwing some words out there that you may not know. But what I will say is once you do it once and you go through it step by step, you'll actually realize, okay, this makes sense. And then when you do it next time, it won't seem so difficult or so hard. I believe we have done webinars on Tag Manager in the past. If it is something that you would like a bit more information on, let us know in the comments, and then we can get something out to you. It's almost its own webinar in its own right, but with Google Tag Manager, it's definitely the way that we recommend installing your conversion tracking if possible. Okay, so how it actually looks within Google Ads. So you may have your conversion tracking set up, you've done everything, but when you're reviewing and optimizing your Google Ads campaign, you may not have the columns there showing. So you'll actually need to go in and unhide them, we would say. And the way to do this is if you go onto any screen that's showing you data. So for instance, in this example, it's the campaign screen. Above the data table, you'll see an option that says columns. So click on that option, and then you want to go to modify columns, which I believe is the first choice. And then you'll be given a selection of columns, basically, where you can modify which columns you're seeing. So in this example, you can see there are recommended columns that Google would go for. There's performance, viewability, and then there's conversions. So this is the one that we're interested in. So you would click on the drop-down menu, and you would tick what the columns that you would like to see. So I would probably say the main ones, not the only ones, but the main ones to start off with would be conversions. So that will show you the actual number of conversions that have been recorded against the campaign. You also then want cost per conversion. So that will be calculated for you. And what I will do is look at the cost of the campaign and divide it by how many conversions have been recorded. And that will give you your cost per conversion. So you can see how much you are paying for each conversion. You also want to see your conversion rate. So that will be shown as a percentage, and it will be the percent of people who actually clicked on your ad who then went on to actually convert. So the higher conversion rate, the better, because it just means that more people are converting once they've clicked on your ad. If you are a e-commerce site and you want to track some kind of conversion value, definitely want to include that as well. Or even if you are lead generation and you've assigned a value to the leads that you get, if you unhide this column, it will show you the revenue or the amount in leads in a monetary value that you have obtained. And by having that, it can then work out your conversion value to cost. So what that will do is look at your revenue, divide it by how much you've actually spent, and you can see how much you are getting back based on the cost that you're putting in. And as you can see, there are a lot of other options there that you can have that, you can play about with, but I would probably say these are the most important ones that you want to make sure that you have. Then if you hit apply, those columns will then be applied to your data table, your screen that you see. Now, in general, just a tip is save your column set. Once you've got the performance data in there that you want, the conversions in there that you want, there's nothing more annoying than coming back to your account and having to do all this again and tick everything. So if you save your column set, you can give it a name. You can save multiple different ideas that you are going for. If you save them, then it's just an option of going in, saying, I want to view these saved columns, and then there you go. So I would definitely recommend saving your column set once you have something set up that you want. Okay, so how it actually looks in Google Ads. So once you have added the columns and you hit apply, you will then see these additional columns. So you can see your conversion, your cost per conversion, and the conversion rate in this example. And really, you can see here that it really helps bring the picture together. Once you can see the data for your impressions, your clicks, your cost per click, it adds that extra element of, okay, what's happening after? So somebody's clicked on my ad, they've gone to my website, and now you can actually see, okay, what is going on? Who is converting? Which campaign is not converting? Is my cost per conversion too high? Is my conversion rate too low? And once you can match all that data up with the data from the campaigns, then you can start optimizing the account and making some really good changes. You may need to follow the same process for the keywords and ad copy sections. So again, very irritating. You've changed your columns within the campaign screen. When you go to keywords, they won't necessarily be the same column. So you will probably need to add them in again. But like I said, if you save them, then they will be there next time. And the same for the ad copy screen as well. Okay, so moving on to conversion action sets. So conversion action sets allow you to choose which conversions are shown in your conversions column when reporting in Google Ads. These can be done per campaign. So if different campaigns have different priority conversion points, then actually this is really helpful. And also smart bidding strategies will optimize based on these conversions. So one of the examples that I would use for this is an e-commerce site. So if you're an e-commerce site where you are, you have a shopping campaign and you're selling products, and the aim of that campaign, the goal of that campaign is to drive revenue, then the revenue that you are bringing in is actually probably one of the most important things for this account, or a campaign, should I say. However, you may then have another campaign that actually is focused around driving signups to maybe some information it is that you're offering on the site. So the keywords within the two campaigns, or the fact that one is a shopping campaign and one is a text-based campaign, they're actually very different. They sit within the same account, but the objective of each campaign is very different. So what you might say is that I want my purchase conversions to be counted in campaign A, but in campaign B, I want my signups to be counted as well, or only. And using conversion action sets, you can actually do this. You can pick and choose which campaigns count which conversions as a campaign when you're looking at the data. So in terms of actually creating a conversion action, so when you go to the conversion section, so again, go to tools and settings, conversions, you will see the following page, and you want to ensure you are on the option, or you've clicked on the option that says conversion action set. This screen is showing you as if there isn't one in there. So it's if you haven't used them before, this is probably the screen that you should be able to see. And then what you want to do is click on create conversion action set at the bottom of the page, and then that will start the journey for you to create them. So creating the conversion action. So the first step one that you want to do is give the action set a name. So again, just going back to what I said earlier, just make sure it's logical and it makes sense, that if anybody else was to look at the set that you've created, they know exactly what that set consists of. Now in section 2, what you will see here is a drop down of all the conversion tracking that you have created within your account. And what you can do is select the conversion points that you would like. So in this example, it's signups. And the conversions that we want to include are anything to do with signups. So in this example, it's a sign up for an event and training, but also a sign up to the mailing list. So we've got them created as different conversion tags. However, we're interested in just all the signups all together. So that's why we're creating an action set with anything to do with sign up. So once you click on those, they will move over to the right hand side. So it's really easy for you to see what you're left with and what you are going to be adding within this action set. And you would then hit save. So it really is as easy as that. And then what you will do is, once you've created your action set, you can create more than one. You can create multiple action sets dependent on what you want. And once you have created those action sets, these can then be allocated to the campaigns in the campaign settings. So if you go to your campaign, you go to the settings, and then you look under conversions, which is the screenshot that I'm showing you here, you'll have the option that's highlighted to choose conversion action sets for this campaign. So what you can then do is, for a certain campaign, you can choose the action set, for instance, that was created in the example for signups. If it was a shopping campaign and actually you're only interested in the conversions for actual products that drove revenue, then you can create an action set for that, and you can include that one for that campaign. So you can really pick and choose. You can have lots of conversion code tags, created, but you can choose which ones go against which campaign. And as I mentioned earlier, automated bid strategies. So there are several automated bid strategies that are definitely worth testing and monitoring. And some of these are only available if you have conversion tracking set up. So an example of these ones, you've got your target CPA, so your cost per acquisition, target return on ad spend, maximize conversions, and maximize conversion value. And what you can say to Google for certain campaigns is you can say, okay, this campaign A, when it comes to my bids, I actually want to set my target CPA. So what I want my cost per acquisition or cost per conversion to be. Google, you then go away and you bid what you need to in order to hit that CPA for me. And then you can do the same with return on ad spend as well, conversions and conversion value. I'm not saying that these always work and they're definitely the way that you should do it, but they're definitely worth testing, because there are times when we've seen it once we've been running an account for a while and we've got the data and we've optimized it. Some of these bid strategies can really help just push it to the next level. But if you don't have conversion tracking available, then these bid strategies wouldn't be available to you. So it's another reason really why just make sure you have conversion tracking in place. Okay, so attribution. So what is attribution? So users may interact with multiple ads from the same advertiser. Attribution models let you choose how much credit each ad interaction gets for your conversions. So it's important to see the bigger picture. So the example that I always use is, imagine that a user does 4 keyword searches. So they start off with something really generic, and as they go through and do their own research, they then come back and search on more specific, if you like, or more relevant keywords. So they actually clicked on your keywords four times, and then they made a conversion on the fourth click. Now, in the past, it was very standard, and it would be last click, and the last click got the conversion. However, it doesn't really seem very fair on the other three keywords that were part of the journey, and had they not been there, then the user may not have found you, they may not have converted in the first place. So attribution is used to basically, I would say, give credit to the points within a journey of a conversion. Okay, so the different attribution models that you can choose. So if you recall in a few earlier slides when you were creating a conversion, you were given the option at that point to say, what attribution model would you like to use? And when you open it up, these are the different attribution models that you can choose between. So I'm going to go through each of them and explain the differences. So the first one that you have is last click. So this gives all credit of a conversion to the last clicked ad or keyword. It's slowly being phased out by Google, and I would probably recommend it's not the one that you use, purely for the reason that it is very weighted to the last keyword that gave the conversion. It doesn't offer insight into the conversion path in terms of which keywords and ads formed part of the journey to convert. So an example of this would be, you may see a very generic keyword that's racking up lots of clicks, never getting you any conversions, spending a lot of money, and then you decide, okay, I need to pause that keyword. However, that keyword may have been the driving force of a lot of the conversions that you had coming in. And by pausing that, you've then actually knocked off the rest of your conversions because you've knocked out a part of your conversion funnel. So it doesn't give a complete picture of what's actually going on within your account between keywords, or even between campaigns as well. So if you have display campaigns, or you have YouTube campaigns and brand awareness campaigns as well, you do really want to think within the account what attribution model you want to be using. The next one that you have is the flip side of that. So you've got first click. So this gives all credit of a conversion to the first clicked ad or keyword. And again, this one's not recommended, pretty much for similar reasons, that it doesn't offer a fair insight into conversion path and which ad or keyword drove the final decision to convert. So with last click and first click, they are very much one or the other. So, you know, there might be reasons in your head that you would think that you would want to use these two, but when looking at the bigger picture, they're not the options that we would recommend. The next one that you can have is linear, which is quite interesting. So this one distributes credit equally across all keywords, ads in the conversion path. So it helps with optimization and understanding the value of keywords, and it gives a clearer picture of how the account works together. And we get asked this question quite a lot in an account sometimes. If there was a conversion that happened, and it had 4 keywords that were clicked on, or 4 ads that were clicked on, what would happen is those 4 clicks, that one conversion would be split between them. So each keyword or ad copy would be given 0.25 of the conversion. So occasionally you would see a keyword that may have a conversion next to it of 0.25. And sometimes you can think, well, how can I have 0.25 of a conversion? I either got a conversion or I didn't. And the likelihood is it's because it's been split with some other keywords that were part of a longer journey. So the way that linear works is it gives equal weighting to all the keywords that were in the path. That's why it's called linear. The next one that you can have is time decay. So this one's quite interesting. So this gives more credit to the clicks that happened closest to the conversion. So the weighting goes more towards the end of the journey. So this helps with optimization and understanding the value of keywords. It gives a clearer picture of how the account works together. And the most credit is given to the keyword that ultimately led to the conversion. Now, there are some instances where this one can be quite useful. like I said, because it gives more weighting towards the end of a journey, it's weighted more towards the closing keywords or the closing campaigns. And sometimes this can be quite nice to see if you potentially have budget issues. So if you know that somewhere you need to pull something back, but ultimately you don't want to pull back on what's working for you, what if you're able to see which keywords are actually weighted more when it comes to conversion because of time decay, it could be that you decide, okay, let me put them in a campaign that has more budget. And then I might have another campaign which has some of these more expensive keywords, some of these more popular keywords that I know don't necessarily always convert the best, but actually they're part of the journey. So you may want to put them in their own campaign and just manage them slightly differently, but ensure they are both kept showing. So there are ways that you can use time decay quite efficiently as well. And then the other one that you can have is position based. So this one's also interesting. It gives 40% credit each to the first and the last click. And then it distributes the other 20% to all the other clicks, however many were in between that first and that last one. So it helps with optimization and understanding the value of keywords. And it gives most credit for what we call the discovery keyword, so the keyword at the start of the journey, and the keyword that ultimately led to the conversion. So it's giving weight to what you may class as the most important keyword. So the keyword that started a journey off and the keyword that has finished and led to the conversion. This one is also very, very useful as well. And it can be for similar reasons in terms of how you structure your campaign and understanding which keywords are actually helping to lead to conversions and which ones aren't. So you will know, okay, if a conversion is getting quite a lot, if a keyword is getting quite a lot of conversions, you know, they are probably the discovery or final keywords that lead to a conversion. So actually I want to put more weight behind those. However, I am still interested in those ones that sit in the middle, but you know, maybe I don't want to give as much of a focus to those. So it's really good to know the different ways that you can use your attribution models dependent on what it is that you are looking to achieve. The last one that I'm going to go through is data-driven. Now, this distributes credit based on past data for the conversion action. Now, this isn't available within every account, so it requires high levels of data. It's not available for all accounts or new accounts. So typically the figures that you're looking at, and I do believe these are changing, but roughly, typically you're looking at 300 conversions in the last 30 days and 3,000 clicks. So that's the benchmark that Google tend to set. There are accounts that I've been into that aren't actually that high yet that do have it available. So it is worth going into your account and having a look to see if you do have this model available. And it's the one that probably gives the clearest view of how valuable keywords are in the whole conversion path. So an example of that may be if there's a keyword that Google notices based on your past data that is constantly within user searches, and actually having that keyword there, it sees that it constantly leads to a conversion. Regardless of where in the journey it is, it will start giving weight to those keywords. So you will actually see which keywords are a real driving force when it comes to user conversions, but not just based on a singular conversion. It is based on your past data as well. You can get quite technical when it comes to data-driven. So if it is something that you are interested in learning a bit more about, I have provided a link here, because it's one of those ones that actually could have half a webinar of its own, because if you really want to understand where the data comes from and what it's showing and things like that, then go and have a look at this link, because it will give you some more information on that. But like I said, if you go and have a look in your account, if you do have data-driven available, I do recommend that you switch to that one. Another area within the account you may or may not be aware of is there's a section called model comparison. And this is essentially, it's a comparison tool within Google Ads where you can see the kind of data you would see from having different attribution models. So again, it's in the conversion section, and on the left-hand side, if you go down to model comparison, you'll then be shown this screen. And what you can do is you can have a play about. So in obviously you can change your time range, your date range accordingly, and then you can compare different attribution models. So in this example, we're comparing if we were using last click to if we were using position-based. And the table then compares the two. So in section 3, you can see for the first campaign, which I've had to block out the name, but you can see from the first campaign what would be recorded if it was last click, which is 342. And then if it was based on position based, you can then see that it would actually have a little bit of lower figure of 340. So, and then it gives you the percentage change as well. So this is really useful to see. For instance, if you go into your account now, have a look what attribution model you're using. And then if you are thinking of changing to one of the ones that we went through, you can come here and you can have a little play about, and you can see how will it actually affect my figures? Will I actually see a difference? Will I be surprised? Will there be a campaign that actually on last click looks really, really good, but when I change it to something like position based or linear or any of the other ones, that you can actually see that other campaigns are doing much better than you thought as well. Okay, so finally, the key takeaways. I always know when Anne pops up this time, it's coming to an end. So I'm doing good for time. So the key takeaways. So if you don't have it, which I think majority of you did, it would be set up conversion tracking. Include different types of conversion points. I think this is one of the things that we see in accounts as well, where there may not be enough conversion points, where you are quite heavily focused on sales or leads, that you actually sometimes forget some of the micro conversions that you might want to include as well. So go away, have a look at your website. Are you including the main conversion points that are interested to you? And if you want to do more, that's fine. You can use conversion sets. And always remember that if you create a conversion, you don't necessarily have to commit to have it showing in your conversion column. There is the option where you can say yes or no. Once you have that information, use the data to optimize accordingly. You have that data available to you. Show the columns and have a look at what's going on. Are your keywords converting? Are they not? If they are, what can you do to make them better? Just generally use the data that you have available to make things better. And also consider a more thorough attribution model, which shows the bigger picture. If I could do another poll now, I would probably actually ask for those that are doing, go away, have a look, and what attribution model are you actually using? Because sometimes you do tend to default to what is already there, and I believe last click is the default. I may be wrong because Google is always changing things, but last time I checked, yeah, Anne's putting a thumbs up. Last click was the default model, which isn't what we would recommend. You're not getting the bigger picture. You may be cutting things out, thinking they're not working when actually they were part of the bigger picture. So yeah, go away and have a look at your attribution model, and definitely use the comparison tool to have a play around and see if there's a better one that you could use. Okay, and that was everything.
Excellent. Well done, Gurpreet. Brilliant as usual. Okay, so there's a few questions. The questions. So Giles is asking about the number of conversions for some of the CPA automated bidding rules. Which, are you sure there is still a minimum number of conversions the last 30 days for target CPA, for example?
I can double check for you. Generally, this is more something we would say when we take over an account, we don't go straight to automated bidding strategies. What we tend to do is, if it's a new account, if it's an account we've taken over, we'll stabilize it, what we call. We'll stabilize it first. We'll optimize it ourselves. We'll set the bids that we feel we need to be at, whether it's to achieve certain CPAs or return on ad spend. Once we've got it to a level where we feel like, it's okay, that's the point that we would say to move to any kind of bidding strategy to test. So there may not still be a minimum, that may have changed, but when it comes to best practices, I would probably say wait a little while, because actually Google needs that data. It needs those 30 days worth of information to be able to make accurate decisions.
I think at one point it wouldn't give you the option. The button wasn't clickable if you didn't have any conversions. I think now, once you've got a certain amount, it will let you. I mean, there's a couple of the PPC team on the call. Maybe they can type something in the chat. The trouble is there's not enough conversions. The data that they're trying to optimize against is a bit rubbish. Yeah. So, you only really want to start using these tools when you know what your baseline is anyway. Because what happens is that they'll end up chasing expensive conversions, and your cost per conversion can go up quite a lot. So, so that's an issue. Yeah. I don't think there's any other questions. I think Ed actually asked one earlier on about downloads, and that was to do with event tracking and converting that event tracking in analytics to a goal and then importing the goal. So I think that was... I had to take a call halfway through. I'm guessing you. You definitely took. I noticed there was something on revenue and bringing revenue in, wasn't there? And how you can then use that to measure return on ad spend, because return on ad spend can be quite an effective automating bidding model as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I said, as long as you've got history that Google can use, and history that is relevant, where the tracking was correct and things like that.
Excellent. Okay, well, next week's presentation is from Suk. So next week's webinar is what's new in SEO, and it includes some of the Google updates. Now, Google was going to do the Google Page Experience update in May. They have delayed it into August. So you might have heard about the term called Core Web Vitals, which is to do with the mobile experience. So anybody... we're going to make this as non-technical as possible. So if you're a marketeer and you've got a website, you should be interested in this. So obviously a lot of you may have colleagues that would like to come to this. So that's for next week. I also wanted to just bring up a couple of the announcements. So if you are interested in that one, if you want to click on the button, and then you can register now. So that's for Sux. We've also got the next DMI training course, which we're registering. We're in the middle of one at the moment, but the next one starts in July. So if any of you have got staff that are interested in the, or yourself, if you want to take part, it's a paid course, but we will be able to offer individual sessions as well, and this is a hybrid course, so you don't have to be in Leicester. You can actually participate anywhere in the country. So although we're running it in the classroom, we are running it through this platform, so it does mean that you can sign up for anywhere. So if you don't want to do the whole course, that's fine. You can do individual days. If you don't want to attend it live and you just want to watch the recording, there's various different discounts on that as well. And then the other thing is, if I haven't announced this for a while, for anybody that's relatively new, we do have a load of training materials on academy@anicca.co.uk. So this is, if you want to request access to the training portal, if you click on the button, you can then go over to Academy, and then we can give you access. It takes a couple of days for us to sort that all out, but you are very welcome to get access to a lot of the training materials. The DMI training material is actually locked down because it's a paid course, but a lot of the other training materials there, including whole one-day workshops. Some of it's a little bit out of date because obviously we've been doing the webinars instead of workshops, but there's still some really good valuable information in there And of course, you can always go to the resource page on our site if you want to go to any of the old webinars, or our YouTube channel, because they're nearly all on there now. There's just one more Q&A. Oh, okay, somebody's answered that question. Thank you, Gurpreet.
I'm trying to go through them, so I do apologise if there's any I haven't seen.
Yeah, so unless there's any other questions, we're at 10 o'clock, so you'll get the video later. But thank you very much, Gurpreet. That's great. Lots of positive feedback. Great job as ever. And we'll see you again next Friday. Have a brilliant weekend. The weather's looking lovely. I'm sure it's going to be a great time. Thank you. Thanks, Gurpreet.
Thank you.